alive. High road roaring every night. Spotlight on Spurs, feel the fight. Spotlight on Spurs, hearts ablaze through the cheers and cloudy days. From the lane to glory's flight. Spotlight on Spurs, shine so bright. Echoes rise when we take the field. This is passion, nothing concealed. Through the tackles, joy ignites. Spotlight on Spurs, burning lights. Feel the tempo, sweet and wild. London's warriors never mild. Every challenge we endure. Spotlight on Spurs, loud and pure.
What's up, guys? Luke here from Spotlight on Spurs. 2 wins, 2 clean sheets. The whole fan base is going to be happy and smiley, right? No, that's not how Tottenham work. We love a meltdown. There's still problems. There's still issues. People still want Frank. Others want him out. That's the way Spurs seem to be, regardless of the situation. To help me talk through it today, we have Mr. Chris Hubble, Mr. Reliable, Mr. Shumin Son in many ways. He's here every week. He's the Tottenham legend. How you doing, Chris? You all right?
Yeah, mate, all good. I'm only here when I haven't got plans and the missus don't start booking things for birthdays and special occasions. So you got to keep everyone happy.
That's it, right? I mean, you can have your birthday whenever you want. You can't choose that and miss a stream. That's just not good enough, mate. Like, that's absolutely not good enough. There's a lot of people within the Spotlight on Spurs club that was saying that they're not sure whether you should be capable of being the co-presenter, considering you're taking days off, mate. There's no days off when you're running a podcast. As the next guest would know, it is his live debut, but he has been on the channel before. Ricky, thank you very much for coming on, sir. How are we doing?
My pleasure, mate. Nice to be on the other end of the mic and me having a bit of a night off. Well, unless you allow me to have a night off, depending on the question I'm going to be asked, mate. So lovely to be here, mate. Big fan of you, as you know. So thank you for having me and Chris. Lovely to meet you for the first time.
You too.
No, there's no nights off. There's no nights off. There's
never a night off. Never a
no,
night
that's
off.
True. That's true. We've got some questions. And I know recently you've been pushing some guests to really get some answers out of them. So we have to go down that route. We certainly will. But to start off, I just wanted to have a little quick chat just about the under-19s, because it's been quite a big week for them. I don't know whether anyone has seen it. I'm sure some have seen the results and even some of the goals as well. Obviously, the team under-19s won 9-1 in the Europa Youth League, which I think is a great thing to be in. I talk about playing Champions League football. I think that's also a massive plus to be able to get the youth players to go and play in different countries against different opposition to kind of help them grow as footballers. But we won 9-1 against Slavia. The brilliant and who's already been touted as a bit of a superstar, Luca Williams-Barnett, scored 5 goals. Tynan Thompson as well got 3. Osezi, who was captain, he actually walked away with 3 assists. So obviously a brilliant performance from them. But you also then had Janai Byfield signing a new contract. That comes off the back of Luca Williams-Barnett signing a new contract recently. And obviously one of the big problems at Spurs has been keeping hold of these young players that we think may go on to become top players. Obviously Osezi and Luca Williams-Barnett also made the bench for the first team, which is brilliant to see. But Chris, where do you stand on the whole youth kind of football, youth at Spurs? There's a lot of conversations in the fan base. Some are saying that all of these players should be starting for Spurs. Others are saying that we are every single player that comes through our youth for generational talent who's going to become absolutely incredible. Where do you sort of stand? Do you think it needs to be a mix? Where are your opinions on the whole youth football at Spurs?
I definitely think, and I mean, I've listened to a few sort of ex-pros talk about their experiences when they're young. They go out on loan to sort of, even if it's League 2, League 1 teams, but then you're playing against, it's a different style of football, I imagine, because you're playing proper football. You're not playing in the under-19s against people your own age. You're playing against sort of veterans between 25, 35-year-olds. So you're playing a bit more of a man's sport. I'd like to see us, I think over the years, me and you spoke about it before, the loan moves that our young players have got have not always been the greatest of experiences. So there needs to be a bit more better planning around that, I think. I don't think every youth player should start, but also we should be building these up for the future, because surely if we've got the youngsters coming through, especially if they're from the home nation as well, it means that you're benefiting the national squad as well as our numbers, obviously, in the homegrown for the full squad. But it's nice, I think. Well, I mean, Harry Kane's probably the last player that's actually come through the Spurs youth team. Even I mean, he went on, and he's still going on to do great things, and if not one of the best out-and-out strikers in the world. So there is proof that you can get your opportunity and take it. It's just probably having the manager that's willing to take that risk and put them in the squad. And even if they do get 15, 20 minutes here, or if it is sort of cup games where we can afford to sort of maybe not win the game, but with, again, I mean, the old group stage of the Champions League would have been perfect, but you've got your points, you've qualified, and you've got a game or two left where you don't necessarily you can chuck the kids in and give them a bit of that experience. But I don't think we're in that situation at the minute to be doing that. So yeah, it's always a risk having the kids, I think, on the bench. You don't want to chuck them into games where you're losing and there's an expectation for them to try and bring something. And I don't think Spurs are at the position at the minute where we're going 4-5-0 up and we can just afford to send them on for half an hour either. So it's a bit of a weird situation, I think, for the youngsters. But hopefully they all keep knocking on the door. They know what their jobs are, and they just need to keep pushing and get Frank seeing them, and hopefully they can earn some minutes.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the youngsters that we're talking about are very young in terms of 16, 17-year-olds, and we seem to have replaced the sort of young players within the squad with players that we've purchased, Jarchi Grays, Bergvalls, Odobert, Tells, etc. So we seem to have missed that generation. And I think that was one thing, I think going back to Mourinho was one that said, after Dane Scarlett, we don't have anything, which is problematic. And obviously he said it years ago, but he's actually been correct, because we really don't seem to have anything that could be stepping up right now. But it is still a young team. It is still, we still have in the fan base people saying that Lankshire's, Donnelly's last year and etc. should be starting. Ricky, where do you sit on the whole youth players coming into the team? Do you think that Spurs need to become a settled side before we can bring these young players into flourish? Or do you think that when we're struggling, we could potentially rely on some of these young players?
A tricky one, Luke, because I feel we've got some really talented youth players that definitely need to feel and see a pathway to the first team. Otherwise, how can you keep them motivated? How can you keep them grounded? How can you keep them believing that their future is definitely at Tottenham and not elsewhere? We're in this tricky period of transition for about 30 years where the players, I feel, that are looking at the first team need to feel there's an opportunity there. But I feel the problem with Tottenham, and this is partly, again, us as fans and the manager, and again, the hierarchy, is there is definitely a feeling that we all want and need success. And we want that now. We don't want to wait 4, 5, 6 years. And that's only been spurred on, pardon the pun, because of winning the Europa League, right? I think, and then having that message straight after from, of course, the Lewis family upon the departure of Daniel Levy was, we want more wins like Bilbao. We want to have more nights like Bilbao. And therefore now there's this, I would feel and see this kind of pressure on everybody at the club to step up and try and push the club on for further glory. And what that means is by that, and Thomas Frank is feeling that right now, there's a fan pressure there on not only results, but also a brand and style of play. And that's maybe why Frank at the moment doesn't feel he can look at the youth setup and say, right, we can give a Luca Williams-Barnett 20, 25 minutes here, half an hour here, because there is that pressure every week to not only perform, but also get results. And I think, like I say, at the moment where we see Spurs at is, again, for Frank, he's been here for, 4 or 5 months. I think it's fair to say that as we sit right here and record, there feels there's a split amongst the fan base in terms of whether they feel this is the right person to lead Tottenham forward. I think everyone acknowledges that there needs to be definitely improvement in terms of the squad, But there is also a big doubt as to whether the youth we've got is good enough to really enhance us. But as we saw with Harry Kane at that time, you never quite know unless they're given an opportunity. And Luca Williams-Barnett is getting rave reviews, Luke, as you said, behind the scenes as well. Xavi Simons name dropped him the other day as a player that he feels has got massive potential. The biggest problem is if you don't give these players an opportunity, they'll want to go elsewhere and get first-team football. So at some point, when the time is right, these players need opportunities. But again, I think it does come down to where a team is in their build and where they are at and whether there's the ability to be able to give them minutes.
Yeah, I completely agree. Having that pathway and knowing that there is a pathway. And that's why I always said about Harry Kane, people would say about, would you accept 200? Would you accept it? I always said that he just, there was a thing in the academy where they would look at Kane and be like, if he's did it, I could potentially get to that level.
100%.
And when you lose that, obviously we don't have that at this moment in time. Exactly what you said. We've lost loads of young players. I think initially it was to do with a wage cap that we had, and we would only pay them a certain amount, and we just lost out. All of the best talent went elsewhere. However, now it's really about showcasing how we can get these players into the teams and obviously play. And as I said, they are young, but I'm glad you mentioned Xavi, because Alistair Gold brought out a video today. And he was actually talking about Xavi, saying that he's a real great influence in the dressing room in terms of young players. So Son used to, as club captain, whenever young players would come and start playing in the first team, which has happened regularly, loads of players who never make it anywhere near a first team have trained with first teams on regular basis. And Spurs are actually good at that. There's quite a lot of times where young players will come in and train with the first team. Apparently Son used to take them all under his wing and kind of get them all welcomed immediately, get the first team players kind of integrating with them, etc. And apparently Xavi's been the one that's kind of taken on that mantle, despite the fact he's only 22 years old himself. He's obviously been at La Masia in Barcelona. He's been at PSG. He understands what the pressure is for a young man. And actually during the win for the under-19s, both Tynan and Luca Williams-Barnett done Xavi's celebration, and that apparently is the reason why, because he's sort of already a role model for him, and he's already trying to integrate him, which is brilliant news to hear. That's exactly what you want. But as you said, we then need to start seeing it on the pitch. We need to start seeing them play, and there was some calls for Barnett to get on the pitch this week. Obviously, it seemed like it was fairly comfortable at home, but obviously it needs to be at the right time. We need to be a settled team. I completely agree. But in terms of Xavi, we obviously have seen some improved performances. I never lost faith. I'm going to say that, and you can go through all of the clips from all the different shows I've been on. I never lost faith and said eventually it will come good. However, we needed to change the way that we play, and that's exactly what we seem to have started to see. So, Chris, in terms of Xavi Simons, how good do you think this guy can be? As I said, 22 years old, 60 million, never played in the Premier League, seems to now be finding his feet. What are your thoughts on Xavi Simons as a whole?
Even saying that he's finding his feet now, I mean, he's had 2 good games, and I feel like you don't want to put that pressure on him. At Spurs, we tend to, if a player's not playing well and then they have 1 good game, it's a case of that's it. He's done it. Whereas for me, I'm sort of just taking every game as it comes. You can tell he's a player. You can see he wants to get the ball. He wants to create some of the passing and moving and the bits of skill that he done. I know, again, it was on Tuesday night, it was Slavia Prague, but still you can just see, and I feel like the players around him now are starting to gel. You can tell that we're actually, the link up play is very good. They're starting to understand each other. They all sort of seem to know there was a couple of balls around the back, and it was really good to see that the players actually all linking together and sort of having that cohesion as such. So I feel like he's going to get better and better and better. I think we've got a really good player on our hands here. I know everyone says he's a bit small and he could potentially be weak, but he's not shy of a tackle either. And it's good he wants to get stuck in. Some of these players, they are deemed and they get called luxury players, but he seems to be a player that actually wants to be involved in it as well, and he doesn't mind the tracking back, and he's quite happy to put a foot in where needed. And I think that would be a big positive in his position with Spurs.
Yeah, 100%. I will come to you, Ricky, next on that. However, Sammy Mockball has just come out and said that the new ownership structure at Spurs, led by Joe Lewis Children, is expected to make substantial funds available in the forthcoming transfer windows as they look to spark a sustained spell of success on the pitch. We've not heard that very often. We haven't heard that very often. And talking about putting some substantial funds into this club, Marlon has arrived with substantial funds as well for this stream. How are we doing, sir? You okay?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. You well?
Not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Thank you very much for coming on. We're just on the topic of discussing Xavi Simons and what we sort of feel like he's going to bring to this club. So I'll start with Ricky, so you can just settle in, and then we'll come to you next, mate.
Your Marlon's not done for anything. God, I can't get enough from this guy.
I did say to Ricky, are you sure you want to go back on with me?
Marlon's like, not again. No, God, change the channel. What's going on?
Trying to avoid it, peeps.
sorry, Marl. Sorry. Look, I can't believe we're really. It's so funny, isn't it, where we are with Tottenham fans? That already people going, yeah, people writing off Xavi Simons. This guy's been here for literally like 3 or 4 months. I mean, it's even crazy that we've got to that point with players now, isn't it, with football, where 3-4 months down the line, we're already having questions whether they're good enough or not. It's mental. I like Xavi. I like his attitude. It's great to hear that, Luke, you kind of were saying there, the way he's kind of taken some of the youth players under his wing. I like what I've seen from Xavi so far. I think the biggest frustration is he's not been given more game time. I think we may have seen him actually develop more quicker if he was given a sustained run of games. I couldn't understand it. He had a really good game against Copenhagen, and then for some reason found himself out of the team against Man United. So I do think, look, I know it's hindsight's a wonderful thing, but you look back at the run before these last couple of games, I think if we played Xavi a bit earlier, I think that would have got fans on side. And just to go back to that point you said about the youth, I think the biggest thing at the moment, I think there's a frustration, or not, maybe not a frustration, but a certain little meh around the place, is because there isn't anyone right now that's really getting you off your seat or excited from the youth. What I mean by that is actually playing in the first team right now. For example, had Luke Collins-Barnett been given a 20 minutes here or there cameo, right? I know, again, we're talking about pressure and needing to get results. I think there might have been some more feeling of real optimism, because you've got a young player coming through. I mean, even when Kane was given the opportunity by Pochettino those years ago, no one could have imagined what Kane would go on to achieve, right, in a Tottenham shirt, outside a Tottenham shirt, for country as well. But there was that feeling that, one of our own is on the pitch there. He bleeds the colour of what we are. He's fighting for us. I feel like it does make a massive, massive difference. And I hate to bring another London club into this, but Chelsea, for example, with Cole Palmer, they love him. They adore him. He's one of their own. He's playing for them. He's scoring goals. I'm not saying that we should just accelerate and bring a player in without knowing if they're good enough. But what the point I'm making is that whilst all of us are really hopeful Xavi's going to be great for the football club, there is nothing like one of your own coming through the ranks, shining for you. And I think we would love to see a young player come through in this period where I keep saying of transition right now. So got higher hopes for Xavi. He needs to be playing more games. I know we've got a lot of games over the Christmas period. But look, that guy, he's not had a huge amount of football recently. So he should be able to play back-to-back games with all due respect to him. I go again, we've got a tough fixture period coming, but there is no excuse why Xavi shouldn't be given an extended run of games now. I want to see him against Forest. I want to see him, of course, with Liverpool coming up on the horizon as well. So, but nothing really with Xavi has let me down so far. I think he's just not been given an opportunity over an extended period of time to be able to build on performances. So I have no doubt Xavi will hopefully go on to be a great player for Tottenham. I think people have to remember Modric had a very, very slow start to his first season at Tottenham. You look at some of the great players. Gareth Bale didn't have the greatest start to his Spurs career. I think, 30 games, 35 games we got on the field before he could get a win in a Tottenham shirt.
He was brought on when we were like 4-0 up, right? To break that streak. It was like, I'm going to just do it where you impossibly cannot break this by carrying on that record. So, yeah,
exactly. So, look, I've got high hopes for Xavi. Give him a run of games. He looks like he's playing with confidence now. And hopefully long may that continue, because let's be honest about it. In terms of who gets us excited in this team, and it's not to do down the team, but let's be honest about it. Xavi is the one at the moment that everyone's looking at, hopefully, to lead us through, and give us a good second half of the season. Because I know so far there is frustration. There's splits around the camp. And I think even like for me, the FA Cup draw at the start of the week, you're just hoping, can we have an easy, FA Cup tie at home to Crawley or Exeter? Who do we get? Aston Villa. You think, God, want to get past the fourth round.
Yeah, it's quite ironic that first sort of thing we was told when Frank took over is that we're going for every single competition, and we could be out in what would be the first and second rounds. And
the biggest worry, I look back at it, Luke, very quickly. Is the biggest worry was what Frank said, like in his opening press conference. You know, there's no doubt about it. We will lose games. You're thinking, God, yeah, we know that now.
Yep. Cheers. He obviously knows Tottenham Hotspur. We all knew that as fans. Marlon, just coming over to you in terms of Xavi Simons, but also as well as part of the question, do you think that if Xavi Simons, unless it's a crazy fixture where he's played like, I don't know, 5-6 games in 10 days, do you think that if Xavi Simons doesn't start, that's a show of intent that Frank's going back to playing sort of defensive football? And then also, what do you think of Xavi Simons as a player?
Not really. I think at the moment, what you can see is that with Frank, it's not the fact he's going back. He's only got one option in that position, and that's going to be really, really difficult to keep this guy going and going and going and going and going. And we have to be careful because look, we don't know when Kulu's going to be back, and we don't even know. Madison's, we'll be honest about, he's not going to play this season, and he's never going to be up to scratch. So we're going to have to be very careful with this guy. And look, he's got the data analysis behind him, Frank. That's the reason why Van der Ven was taken out against Newcastle, because I know everyone was moaning at the time, but if his hamstrings went in that game, you'd have been moaning anyway. So I look at it like this. There's going to be times this season, and I prefer it if it was away from home, where Xavi is not going to play. When Xavi's on the bench, I prefer it to be, look, at the end of the day, our away form is impeccable, minus Newcastle in the Cup, and which he did play Paulinho or Bentancur together that day, and Arsenal. Those are the two blemishes that he has. I know we haven't been great away from home, but it's working for him. So for me right now, I'm like, you know what? I trust what you're going to do away from home. I know a lot of people want to see this attacking football, but I'd rather see that at home than away, because away, you're more likely to get opened up and teams have got their crowd behind them, and Spurs kind of, fall under pressure. We've seen it. This season, we've seen it last season. They just don't play well under pressure. So for me, I don't mind if Xavi comes in and out, but he's got to. I'd rather see him in all the home games in his position than anything else. But what I've noticed about Xavi, like he's a good player, don't get me wrong, but what I've noticed is something's changed in his game. And what people haven't realised is that when he first came in, he was trying to pick it up. He was more close to the strikers than he was the midfielders. And that's where he was trying to pick it up and get in the pockets. In the last few games, you notice he's coming slightly deeper. It's like he's taken a 2-yard step back to pick up the ball. Now, I don't know if this was an instruction that Frank has been trying to teach him, or he's realised actually in the Premier League, or he's watched James Maddison and gone, actually, I need to come slightly deeper to pick it up and then drive with it, because that's what seems to be giving him the most success at the moment. I noticed it against Slavia Prague, and I definitely noticed it against Brentford. So hopefully this is what we're going to start seeing from him, and this is why he's starting to now adapt and get everything, get his ducks in a row. And for me, I'm like, you know what? If it's taken him 3 or 4 months, I don't mind that. It is what it is at the moment. We haven't really got anyone else, and we're relying on a 22-year-old to kind of really be the person to open everything up. So for me, right now, it's like I just kind of take it as it is. We've lost as many games as we have. It is what it is. We are where we are. But if we're going to move forward, we'll see against Nottingham Forest this week if we're going to move forward. And I think I don't mind if Xavi's taken out of it. For me, like I said, it's away. I don't mind. But at the same time, I'm one of those, you've got to play your best team. And at the moment, Xavi's in that. And you don't really mess with if you're going to make, what I always say to any manager is, when you look at the most consistent teams in the league that end up winning game after game, they have a core and they generally play most games. Yeah. And then you can kind of mess around with other positions. But if you take anyone out of your core, so you've got to make sure that the rest of the team is fit. Like your best 11's got to play. Like with Van der Ven last week, he had to play his best 11 that he could put out there on that day. Just because if you take Van der Ven out, well, even though Van der Ven's probably not great in the last few games, but it is where we are. But that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do in this situation. But unfortunately, we've got so many injuries at the same time. He's just got to tread carefully.
But that's been his problem, I think, guys. Do you not think? I don't know if you agree, Luke, and sorry, Christy, I'll bring you in as well. I think the biggest problem for him is that at times, yes, we've had injuries, and to be fair to him, there's not been too many occasions that he's complained, but I don't think he's actually enabled himself to find a best team because we've been chopping and changing. And when you keep doing that, it's very hard to find a rhythm.
Yeah.
So that would be, I think, one of the frustrations so far under Frank, and why there does feel this kind of feeling around the fan base that some aren't happy with what they're seeing, because you've not seen a consistency in the 11 when there has been ability to maybe not rotate. I go back to that Copenhagen game. Really good game there. Played ever so well. We played a Man United game, and I think Miles, you was on the show with us that late at night, and I think we said at the time, it's hard because you want to praise him for making the substitutions, but those players should have started the game. And it's like, you look back now after the event and you think, what an opportunity that would have been just to give the players confidence by playing the couple of games in a row. But this is the thing with Frank that we're going to find out. Let's be honest about it. When he was appointed, a lot of us thought to ourselves, well, this guy is highlighted as being a flexible tactician, very much adapts to the game, adapts to the opposition. But are we actually going to see, and Jason said this to me actually, are we going to ever see a consistent theme under Frank where you think, right, that's who we are? And I think that's the question we're all asking. Here we are, what are we, 15, 20 games in all competitions. And can anyone say so far we've seen what a Thomas Frank Tottenham is? I don't think we have. And the question is, this season, will we know what a Thomas Frank Tottenham team looks like?
And if you take the last two games against Brentford and Slavia Prague, they were so different.
Yeah.
So,
but that's the argument in the fan base, isn't it? That's what the fans are not sure of. Like, they were different performances and it's different opposition, but it was more of the let's attack, let's try and dominate, let's try and win the ball, let's try and have shots. Because I think we had something like 17 shots on target across them two games. But a lot of fans are going, yeah, but was that because of the opposition being so bad? It wasn't. What was it? Do you know what I mean? So it's like against Forest, are we going to revert back to they're going to be a team that are not going to let us do that? So therefore, is it? So I actually said when Frank was being appointed, I think he's going to be too adaptable for the fan base, and a lot of people laughed. It was like, how can that possibly be a negative?
Because that's what we wanted, was someone to be adaptable.
I think that's what it was. There's so much like anything that's different to Ange, I'm taking. But I always felt that this was going to be a problem. Like for instance, and I always said Wolves. Funnily enough, I didn't think Wolves were going to be bottom, but I always said if we go to Wolves away, the Tottenham fans are not going to be happy if we go there with a particular set of tactics because Wolves are weaker in a certain area. Because the fans go in, we should be going to Wolves to dominate them, not play two up top because they're weak at centre back or whatever it is. It should be a case of they should worry about us, not us worry about them. And I feel like we're not sure at this moment in time whether Frank's going into games trying to stifle the opposition more or allow us to dictate games. And obviously Xavi coming into form might sort of change that in a way, because you know that you then got someone who can actually dominate a game and dictate it. But Marlon, going on to what you just said, I actually think that Xavi seems to have changed his game up in the aspect of running in behind as well. And I've always said that if you've got someone that's running in behind, it creates problems for defenses. If everything's being played in front of you, then that's easier. But Xavi does drop deeper, but I think he also goes long. So he's so much harder to track because you don't know if he's going to drop into space or if he's going to run in behind. Obviously, the goal that the assist he got for Richarlison was a great run in behind. He's not the quickest, but he just obviously he times it well, gets in behind. And then it's a good cross into Richarlison. So I feel like that's part of the problem in the fan base. And it'd be interesting to know what you got. We will discuss Forest shortly. But over the last two games where we've seen a more attacking impetus, Chris, do you think that that's come because of what Frank started to realise the fans want? Or do you think it's because the opposition have allowed it to happen? Or is it a bit of both?
I think you'd be stupid not to listen to it. If there is a lot of noise coming from the fans, you'd be stupid not to listen and see what that is and then make a judgment on if you believe that's true or not. Just talking about the adaptability of Frank, it'd be interesting to see what we do at home to Liverpool, because against PSG at the start, against Arsenal at their ground, we've gone with a back three, and I'd be very interested to see if he does change to the back three against Liverpool, even though they're not really in great form at the minute and they could be there for the taking. So that'd be where I think I'll see how we're going to set up and what Frank's team maybe looks like. Because if we are at home to Liverpool next weekend and we do set up the way we've been set up the last couple of games, that shows, I think, a bit more intent as to how he wants to play against teams. And again, form comes into it, but whether he's then thinking this game, he's actually focusing on the game and the opponent and how they're playing, we could actually go and take the game to them and win this game, rather than go over back three and potentially try to be a bit more balanced and soak up a bit more and maybe play a bit more counter-attacking.
Yeah, what do you think, Ricky? In terms of, was it the opposition being poor? Do you think it was a switch in tactics, a bit of both? What do you think?
I feel like, Luke, we're going to ask the same question, aren't we, every week about every opposition at the moment. It's really hard. I mean, you titled this show, "Have We Turned a Corner?" Right? Mm-hmm. That's what you titled the show. Have we turned a corner? I mean, I'm asking myself that question: have we turned a corner? And my honest answer is that I don't know yet. And your question to me about the opposition, for us to feel like we've genuinely turned a corner, I've been to sit there and analyse every opposition every week about if they've been good, if they've been poor, is I need to see, as I go back to a second ago, a consistent run of games where there's a theme to how we're playing, there's a balance, there's a consistency, there's a cohesion amongst the group, that they understand what is being asked of them. Because it's funny, when you reflect on the last week and a half or so, I mean, that Newcastle game, I thought, first half, I couldn't tell you what the players were thinking or trying to do. The second half was more of a doggy performance, wasn't it? It was a hanging there, backs to the walls job. I mean, look, that Romero overhead kick is one of the slowest overhead kicks to ever go in the history of overhead kicks. And then you roll on and you look at the results we've had. It's funny because there was so much noise around that Brentford game. Like, I was convinced that Sunday night was going to be a crisis show, which is mad, but you just never know with Tottenham. And, you know, the fact we got the win there, and again, it's the mood is still, I'm not sure. It's hard to describe the mood at the moment. And I know like we don't like to admit it. I do think what doesn't help is our neighbours, right? It doesn't help, you know, because you've got that in the constant bit, you've got that in your constant mind thinking, is the unthinkable going to happen, right? And that's nagging at you every week. You've got to be honest with you. And every week as well, when it goes on, you're seeing the inconsistency of other teams as well. That's a worry. Back to your question about the opposition. I feel like I need to see more games. I feel like I need to see more games to know really where I'm at generally with everything. I wouldn't say that I'm against Frank. I wouldn't say that I'm with Frank. I'm certain. It sounds like I sit on the fence, but I need to see more. Like, I need to see more evidence that the players 100% feel that we've turned a massive corner here. Like, I do think Romero, looking back on it in the last week or so, has shown what kind of a leader he is, definitely. 100%. But the thing for me is that we've just had those reports dropped tonight about the January transfer window. And look, you boys know I love a transfer window, but I also like looking at it in reality and think January transfer window for me is clubs that are either really, really struggling or feel they're in a position where they can have like a real massive push for, dare I say, the top four of the title. And I'll be honest with you, where I am with Tottenham right now, we kind of sit in the middle of that. When you look at the table, a couple of wins takes you, obviously, of course, up the league. A couple of defeats takes you back down the league. So it's a really tight table, but Spurs are going to have to make their mind up very quickly if they haven't already in terms of the profile of positions they want, and we'll need to act on that fast. So I don't know about you guys, what you think from your perspective, but I feel like January will be a really intriguing time to understand just how much these owners want to push the club on.
Yeah, I completely agree, especially when you consider the recent report from Sami Mokbal to say that apparently there's going to be a substantial amount of money made available. It'd be very clear to see whether or not Frank is the leader of this project or that sort of thing by what we start doing in January, because I definitely feel like there are certain acquisitions that are needed, particularly in certain positions that we all knew probably in the summer as well, right? That actually there's certain places that we need to be improving. Marlon, what do you think in terms of, as Ricky mentioned, the title of the show, have we turned a corner? And that also, if we're saying that we need more time, then that's absolutely fine, right? You can have that as a judgment to say that I need to just see a bit more, or I need to see it more often, more consistent, whatever that may be. Where do you sit on the form?
I don't think we've turned the corner, but I do agree that we need to see more from this team. Now, when we were losing, everyone was saying, I'm going to give Frank to the end of the season. So he should be given the exact amount of time if we're winning. We can see by the end of the season whether he's going to be good enough or not. Look, I've never been a massive Frank fan, even before he came, but I will support him like every other manager. I don't really care. I don't care who's in the dugout. At the end of the day, I'll support you no matter what. But for me, I think what everyone's got to kind of get on board with is that, like you said earlier, Frank's going to change a lot of stuff, and it's just whether people, like, we think we know best as Spurs fans. We always do. Okay, but this comes to a certain point that we don't know that much. We'll suggest things, and then when it goes wrong, well, oh, why did he try that for? Because that's what we're like. We're fickle, but we just got to start winning games. And look, I'm when it comes to Forest this weekend, I'm kind of looking at going, this will be a bit of a case of whether we have turned the corner. And why I say that is because Brentford, he knew.
Yep.
Slavia Prague, we did score 2 penalties. We only scored one from and an own goal. Right. So again, we were scoring own goals before. I think own goals are our top goal scorer in the Champions League as well. Someone did say that. I think it is.
Yeah. I think
own goals, with and then Mawani, and I can't remember, someone else has got 2. So again, I look at it and go, okay, so not much has changed in the Champions League, but fine, because we just need to get the job done in the Champions League. But Forest, I think, have lost 2 in 10. So they're not going to be easy. Like, I know a lot of people are going, oh, they're going to be, we should be going here, we should be doing this. It's not in the Forest, they're not the same. They're not Ange. If it was Ange, I'd be going, Frank, you've got to kind of turn these over because they don't know how to attack. But they've gone back to basics. They've gone back to Nuno ball. And you can see that it's had a clear and good effect on them. So actually, Frank's going to be tested this weekend. And for me, depending on what he does and how he plays, would determine whether I think he's turned the corner or not. Because I can't judge it on. I'm glad he's won those 2 games, and that is brilliant. And the amount of shots we're having is absolutely brilliant. Because actually, if you go back to the beginning of the season, to be fair, Slavia Prague and Burnley reminded me a lot of each other. Yeah, they remind. That's the amount of chances we gave up, but it may have been down to Archie Gray and Paulinho just not a good midfield pairing. That's what I'm going to put it down to.
You and this Archie Gray slander is incredible.
I'm going to be on it. Like, I'll praise him when I need to praise him, but I'll also say that he didn't play very well. I don't think him or Paulinho played very well on Wednesday. Not Wednesday, Tuesday. I think Bentancur might be the key for Gray, and I think Bergval's the key for Paulinho.
We were saying earlier, weren't we, about getting the partnerships going, and obviously Romero and Van der Ven is the centre back one. I feel like I think like Odobert and Xavi Simons are developing some sort of. They seem to be in an IQ. They seem to be on the same sort of level. I think. I personally think that they are. I'm not saying that they should be starting. That Odobert should be starting every single game, but I especially think that with the width that Odobert offers. I think he's different to every other winger that we've got.
He is, but the only problem is that Odobert doesn't get on with our strikers. So for me, I think where the balance comes into play is having Mawani on the left, and that's why Simmons is then able to do what he can do. Because what happens then, Richarlison just seems to be freed up a little. Now that Richarlison's got that whole space up top by himself, he gets himself in positions that he should be. But yeah, I'm not going to sit here and judge Frank now. I said I won't. I said I'll judge him.
Judge him every week.
Yeah, I know. But I'll judge him more towards the end of the season.
It's part of the territory, unfortunately.
We're all
choice.
doing it. Yeah. We said we're not judging him, but he's on. I mean, like, these managers are on trial every week, aren't they? Really? Yeah. Let's be honest, like, they're on trial every week. I just don't know about you, Luke. At what point do you really start to judge him? Like, is there a time when do you start thinking, right, by now? What do you think?
I understand the concept of what people say is like, I'm going to give him a year. I'm going to give him 18 months. I understand that concept. I don't think it makes sense when you actually think about it. So what you're telling me is if we are bottom of the league and we're 10 points adrift, are we still giving him time because he's still within that year? Like, it doesn't make sense. You still have to see stuff. You still have to see a way of playing, or you can see that actually we're on a bad run, or is he getting the players in that he needs, sort of thing. So I definitely feel that's a part of it. And at the moment, I don't think it's the fact that people are saying that he should be sacked, not saying that he should be in danger, but people are saying that he shouldn't be here, he should be sacked. I think is absolutely crazy. I think that we should definitely see where the intentions lie in January, because I'll go back to the Ange Postecoglou first transfer window. There was huge changes and everyone thought, hang on a minute, we're going to start going and signing top players now, Madison's, Van der Ven's, that sort of thing. The next 18 months, we brought in Solanke, and everybody else was brought in to be a squad player. They was not brought in to be a starter. So if we go and do that again, then what's the point in this? If we're going to go in the next transfer window, we don't sign anyone that improves the 11, and the one after we need to do this consistently. And we need to, I'm not saying necessarily back him in terms of we've got to go and spend hundreds of million, but we need to get players in that fit his system. And going on to Archie Gray, it was something I was going to bring up later on, but I've seen so much in the Archie Gray, in the fan base about Archie Gray recently. Some are saying that he brings a balance to that midfield that we don't have with other people, and then others are saying he's not very good and he's maybe slightly better than what we've got because what we've got isn't very good. Others are saying that he's just been really bad, and that actually we're seeing an average performance from someone who's not very good, and we're making it out to be something that's amazing, and etc. So it's interesting to see whether Gray is actually giving that balance, and whether this is something that he can go and say we've got Forest on the weekend, then we've got Liverpool. If he goes and has 2 good games there, is that maybe Gray turning a corner, going, actually, I'm here to stake my case. Whereas Archie Gray, with all due respect, was probably nowhere near the first team for anyone other than Lubo for since the start of the season. It was probably a case of we were expecting everyone else to be there. But I do think that Gray's offered some sort of balance. But again, it comes back to what we were saying earlier about the last 2 games. Did the opposition allow that to be the balance? Or is it just a case of he's had a couple of good games and then we're going to drop off like we see with Sarr, for instance? So
did he really have a good game on Tuesday compared to what he had on Saturday? I'd say no, because the amount that we allowed through that midfield on Tuesday was not good enough. Like him and Paulinho, and I'm concluding Paulinho in this because a lot of people want to give a lot of stick to Bentancur, but what Bentancur brings you is so different to what Paulinho and Gray did on Tuesday. And I thought if the opposition was a lot better, and I think I said the same against Burnley, we would have conceded goals. And this is the same problems that we had in the early parts of the season. But I get it. This is what's going to happen with attacking football. But I look at with Brentford, because Bentancur and Gray, they complemented each other.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. And I thought Gray had a really good game on Saturday, but I thought on Tuesday he was left wanting sometimes, and so was Paulinho. Like, they just couldn't get along. And I think we were a lot better when they actually. I think especially when Gray came off, but when Paulinho came off too, and I think we started just overrunning it in the midfield a lot. But did Gray really have a good game on Tuesday? I'd probably say no, he didn't. He let a lot drift by him. He was good on the ball, and I've always said he's good on the ball. But if he's going to play in that position, sometimes defensively he's just never in the right place at the right time, and that's my biggest problem with him. And I think if he plays against Forest on Sunday. Then he's going to have he's up against probably Elliot Anderson, who's probably having the season of his life right now. So it's going to be really, really interesting. And the guy that shall not be mentioned because Marinakis might thing, but he's going to be up against a decent midfield on Sunday. So it'd be really interesting to see how he copes in it if he does play. That's the thing. If he does play,
I agree with Gray. I think that we do seem to have so many games where we have our central midfield seem to be missing. The only thing I would say is that we've done this last year in terms of tactically. If we see this regularly, surely that must be part of the tactic for whatever reason, because it didn't matter who's been playing there. We had the same thing when Paulinho and Bentancur played there, who are two defensive players.
I tell you what the problem is with our midfield right now is because we only have two players who can actually pass the ball in midfield.
There's
which
not
is
enough
Bentancur.
variation, Miles. You're right.
Yeah,
There's not
and
variation.
Gray. So,
Yeah.
like you said, you said a vital thing at the beginning of your statement when you're talking about Gray. Is it because he's just the best of what we've got right now? You can do that
so
when he's
true.
on the ball, and that's all it is. You go bring another midfielder that can pass. I tell you now, we'd go. Oh, now we know what we're missing.
Yeah.
And
This is so
the
key.
problem.
This is so key. Just to throw off Miles' point, I hope you don't mind me saying that. You know, I don't mean in a disrespectful way. I really had high hopes for Sarr. Like, I really, really had higher hopes that when I saw the start of this season with Sarr, that he was going to go on to new levels. And I think the frustration has been that, number one, whatever the reason there's been a non-selection with Frank around him. And also, when he's come on, I've not seen enough to tell me that Sarr is going to really grow into a formidable player, which is a real shame because I had such high hopes of Pap Sarr. I really, really did. I still want to believe that we're going to see a much better version of Sarr in the future at Spurs. But what are we now? Is it his third season, Sarr? Third season where we're at with him?
No, it's longer than that.
Longer
Than that. Yeah, because he was here under Conte, wasn't he?
Yeah,
Conte,
so that's obviously that second part of the season. My worry is, and it's worrying when you start agreeing with, no disrespect to him, Tim Sherwood. Well, I heard Tim Sherwood say recently about our midfield that it's very much kind of much of a muchness. You know, barring Xavi, who we hope is going to be an absolute superstar. And Pelini's been brought in really as a bit of a screener, right, to be a holder there defensively. None of our other midfielders really do get you excited and off your seat. And that's our biggest problem. I mean, no disrespect to them, Bentancur, Bergvall, who's a young talent, but I think we've got away from the fact that we actually need players that are for now, like Marlon really touches upon as well. So I feel like priorities for us at the moment, I think everyone feels that definitely the left wing is a massive priority. Let's be honest about it. No one has really nailed down their spot there. And clearly, for whatever Brennan Johnson gave us last season in terms of goals, let's be honest about it, Frank clearly doesn't fancy him.
No.
Clearly, he's not seeing it in training to give him an opportunity. Odegaard, I think, is a good young player. I mean, I was told recently he's brilliant in training, but he's fearful of trying things on a match day because of what the reaction might be if things go wrong. He's a young player who's low on confidence. So I look at us and think that we are such a work in progress. And we are, I hate to say this, we are a million miles off that Pochettino team from all those years ago, a million miles off, which really upsets me, but is another reality check that this is going to take time. And I know fans hate hearing that. But unless these reports are true tonight, we're having out of Sammy Motbell, and Sammy's a great journalist, by the way. He's a great guy, and he wouldn't be falsely reporting things. That's been passed over to him, from someone that's obviously in the know. Let's be honest and let's see what they're going to do now. Because, I mean, let's see if they're real genuinely going to be backed Tottenham. Because let's be honest about it, I think this current version of ENIC have got this window and a summer window, and I think they don't show us any real ambition or intent. I think fans will be back protesting again. I really, really do. If Spurs find themselves 10th, 12th in the Premier League and we're not seeing that level of ambition, I think fans will start protesting again. I really, really do.
Yeah, I think the problem that we've had is for the last 18 months, we've signed a lot of squad players. And then now we're looking at the first 11 going, actually, we probably should have been improving that, which then makes the first 11 players squad players. And that's how you improve the depth. I think when you look at a lot of our squad, if you said that you had a star person and then you're bringing Odegaard off the bench, you're bringing Tell off the bench, you're bringing Johnson off the bench, you kind of go, oh, that's a decent squad there. The problem is these are all the team players that are starting at this moment in time. It's exactly the same with the midfield. Like Sarr, start of the season, absolutely sensational start to the season. If you're a team that are bringing Sarr off the bench because he's your third or fourth choice midfielder, you're like, that's decent. Bentancur, third or fourth choice, that's decent. These are all first teamers. These are all players that actually are starting every week or competing to start every week. And I think that's our problem, is that we don't have that star midfielder. I've said it a few times and looked at a few different performances, particularly against the big teams. How many times, and this was last year as well, and the year before, I think the year before, when we dominated tactically, not individually. It was as a team, we kind of swarmed teams, etc. But do we have a midfielder where you go, actually, if he plays well today, we might win? We don't have that sort of caliber of midfield, which I think is a problem. In terms of, and we've jumped ahead a little bit in terms of talking about the transfers, but one thing I did want to discuss: Udogie getting injured. Does that make the left back potentially, but full back particularly, is that now a priority in January that has to be sorted out? Because okay, we've been told that Udoggie's going to be back in January. We all know what Spurs are like. It could be January 2027 for all we know. But if we have two fullbacks in Porro and Spence, and the next person that will be coming in to start games will be Ben Davies, which absolute love Ben Davies. But if you're playing in a system where you want a winger to start, Spence, for instance, was getting into the 10 position quite regularly last game. Is now the left wing and the striker seem to be the sort of priorities that everyone's saying we really need? But is getting a fullback in January now a priority for you, Chris?
I think it has to be, because we seem to be able to be. Strikers are never going to light up the Premier League. I don't think it's quite clear that that's the case. But all it takes is for Porro or Spence to be overplayed and pick up an injury, and as you say, there is no backups after that, because then Ben Davies slots in the left back. That again changes the tactics. I think it changes the way that we play. And then also about the January window as well. The thing that worries me is that we are going to be signing players in January potentially that could need 3 or 4 months to get used to the Premier League. And if that's the case, that's the end of the season. So who do we go and get at left back who is ready to play and, as you say, is there to play now, rather than sort of buying someone that might need some time to adjust and may need sort of the summer to then get into it, and then next season they flourish. And that's why January for me is always a bit of a dodgy one.
Yeah, Ricky, where do you sit on the Udogie injury and what that might mean that's needed in January?
I thought Udogie, the priority was having someone like him come for the summer. Having someone come in the summer was a priority position. The same as I thought Spurs need to go and get a left winger. Of course, to replace Heung-min Son was a priority. The problem with Tottenham is that we find is that the priority positions get shifted on for another window. So, like, by the time we go and address it, it's been the third window when we've actually needed the player that we go and get them. So, where do you start with this squad? Yes, it's a priority position, but so is, in my opinion, probably 4, 5, 6 positions in our squad. You know, no disrespect to this, because I think Vicario is not a terrible goalkeeper. He worries me, like, as Marlon will know, because I tell him every week he worries me. You know, the lack of commandment from the box. But I look at our midfield that I've just spoken about, the need for a striker. I'm not sure Frank's doing us any favours to keep saying in press conferences, I'll tell you when there's progress. I mean, fans deserve to know what's going on. We were told before the Arsenal game, I think before that international break, there's a chance he might feature. And since then, it's completely gone off the radar. We don't know what's going on.
Just as well, to be clear, journalists have basically been told there's pointless asking the question.
Yeah, don't ask.
So there's been loads of people that are messaging. I've seen it under Ali Goals, George sessions. People going, why don't you ask? Why don't you ask? Why don't you ask? They've basically been told they will get the same response. And the response is he will update when they are available. So there's no point asking the question. They're obviously nowhere near available.
So realistically, when you look at what we need, let's be honest about it in terms of January, it is like a shopping list. We need a left winger. We need a centre forward. We need a left back. You know, the goalkeeper, I think, is a concern, but maybe not a pressing concern right this second. But he's on the list in terms of an area that we need to sort out, isn't it?
A ball playing midfielder.
Yeah,
I think I will still go back. I think Morgan Gibbs-White was a massive dent in this. And one of our problems is that we have this too regularly, where it's like, well, we don't have a plan. Okay, so what happens if you miss out on him? I don't know. Like, come on, there needs to be some sort of plan.
What I'm trying to say is, we spent 3 weeks talking about Savinho, right? We spent 3 weeks on that player.
Yeah.
Not only don't we end up with him, we get no other replacement. I mean, I understand as well that element that if you can't get what you need now, then don't buy anyone. I understand that. But you spent 3 weeks chasing someone to get absolutely nowhere. Nowhere.
And again, this is a common theme, right? This isn't a one-off.
I'll be honest, this is why, boys, I am very, very hesitant to really believe like ENIC 2.0 is going to be any massive difference to the ENIC of Daniel Levy. Like what they've done is they've ignored the noise. Well, I say they've removed the noise by Daniel Levy no longer being there, but quite honestly, to try and tell me there's going to be a massive change, I don't know. And the thing now is you've got, to be honest with you, it goes back to what we said earlier. Not only have you got to try and convince the player to come to Tottenham, you've got to convince them this is the right manager to play under from an attacking brand perspective. Mm-hmm. You've got to convince them that you are going to try and bring European football here, with all due respect, with a manager that hasn't got a pedigree of getting clubs into Europe. And that's no disrespect to Frank. That's not his fault for that, because the club picked him, right? But I don't know. It's like even like the mood that your home ground should be a fortress, and we've won there 4 times in the last 22, and 3 in 2025 in the Premier League.
And now unbelievable in Europe, though.
Unbelievable in Europe, but like the attendances now. I don't know if you saw it. My friend, one of my friends, obviously John Lee White Rose. I think he put out a figure on X. 47,000.
46, I think. 46, 47.
Well, of course, at the game the other night. So that's worrying. Like attendances are dropping; they're not rising.
Apparently, I'm sticking up for the club here a little bit. Apparently, there was a fear that it couldn't go on General Sal because they were worried that Slavia Prague supporters were going to get in as Spurs fans. So it didn't actually go onto General Sal. But Alistair Gold, I think, said that he reckons that if it goes on General Sal, you probably get another 5,000 or 10,000. But that's still not capacity. It's still a few thousand off. So, and I think that ticket prices were obviously a bit of a concern as well. But this is going to be a continued issue. I think it's the Champions League. Like we're all sitting here at the start of the season going, we really want to get to the Champions League. And then we're in the Champions League right now. We're in it and we're not even selling out our home game.
I think perversely for Frank, if you ask Thomas Frank what you would really have wanted, I might be wrong here. Don't Miles agree or disagree. I think for him, probably he would have wanted his first season to be out of Europe, to have the one game a week, to focus on the preparing of the opposition, and not have a situation where you're having to try and it keeps referencing actually recently the fact that he's having to deal with playing twice a week and 4 games in 15 days. It goes back to how he managed Brentford during the COVID era. I look at us right now that, we I feel like we are kind of going from week to week at the moment, which is a real sad thing. The thing actually I heard someone say the other day, I think it might have been Johnny, forgive me, and I do agree with him, that when you had that Redknapp and Martin Jol era, you would just kind of, there was no expectation, was there? No. You turned up every week and you had players that would excite you, the likes of a Modric, a Bale, a Van der Vaart. I mean, look, don't get me wrong, we wanted top 4 then, but it was more about what you were seeing rather than kind of thinking, got to get top 4, got to get top 4, got to get top. I mean, we wanted to get top 4, don't get me wrong. I mean, it was incredible. We did do it under Harry, but there is now this kind of always week to week, where are we compared to the other teams? And I don't know, just I can't explain it. The mood at the moment around the fan base, I can't put my finger on it. It just feels a bit meh at the moment.
Yeah.
Do you think, though, Ricky, that the whole sort of where are we, what we're doing, because the league is actually so tight as well? Like you win a game, you jump up 5 places, or you lose a game, you could drop down 3 or 4 places as well. And I think that's why everyone's got their eyes on the league, because the Premier League as itself at the minute is so tight and so competitive.
Yeah.
I was on your show the other day saying, I know we're 5th. We're on 18 points, I think it was. But if we play these games again, we won't get 18 points again. And in a few weeks, we could drop right down the league. And it could work the same. We could be saying right where we are now, actually, in 2 games' time, we're sitting back up in 4th or 5th or whatever it may be, because of how cramped that middle section is.
Do we feel, though, I mean, if I asked you now, like, Miles, do you feel like we're going in the right direction?
What kind of question is that?
Generally, do you know what the thing at the moment is? That I talk to a lot of Spurs fans around me, as you guys know, and I pick up the phone to friends of mine. They're like, the mood is, I can't explain it.
Do you think though this is because, I tell you one thing that's happened is that we can't blame Levy anymore. Like we had an outlet, and that outlet's gone now. That outlet's been.
People are still blaming him, mate. People are still blaming him. I've seen some people say that Frank was his appointment.
On the last one on Spurs, everyone says, this is what we're behind.
Yeah, I know, and I get that, but the problem is he's not there for us to. even though we're still blaming him, but when we go to the games now, he's not the figurehead. He's not the one we're talking about. When was the last time we had a Daniel Levy conversation? We don't really get them anymore. It is literally about Frank and the football. If Daniel Levy was still here, Frank probably could have got away with all this. I tell you that now. He probably could have got away with it. And I think what's not helping, because you lot mentioned the point earlier, right? So look, when you talk about Redknapp and you talk about Martin Jol, there was only 2 or 3 teams back then.
Yeah, it's
What's
true.
happened is the Premier League has become richer, and we got ourselves in the conversation with Man City later on. And then what's happened is now you've also got Aston Villa coming into the conversation. You've got Newcastle now coming in the conversation. So the expectation now is that you've got 8 clubs vying for 4 spots, possibly 5, depending on how it works out. And, but this is where we're at. And I think the problem that is that when this started to happen, Tottenham and Daniel Levy stood still because they were trying to do everything and be sustainable in that point. And you have to, I get you have to be sustainable, but at the same time, the market you're now shopping in, you've now got Newcastle have got all the money, so they can offer more wages. You've got Aston Villa at the moment who have got, I'm going to say it outright, the better coach.
They have. Well,
right?
they've got a better squad as well.
And they've got the money as well, so they've got the money on top. So these are the people that we're trying to compete with, and if we're not offering the wages as what we do, we'll offer the fee. If we're not offering the wages, these clubs are going to go, all right, we'll come here and we'll do it. Because London, again, is not the place that everyone wants to be anymore. Because, you could go to Birmingham, you can go to Liverpool, you can go to Manchester. It's just as bad as London. So, I think what Spurs have got to do, they've got to kind of look at it and see what their competition's doing and try and compete with their competition now. Look, and this is where we're at as a football club. And I think for a lot of our Spurs fans right now, because of the ticket prices, you're expecting 4th place, because if we're paying the same amount as Arsenal,
right.
you're expecting champagne football, and that's exactly what they're charging.
Yeah.
And when you going back to Redknapp and Jol, because the reason why there was no expectation, yes, the stadium was smaller, but the ticket prices compared to what they are now, I know with inflation and whatnot, wasn't as expensive. So you kind of when you're going to watch Modric and Bales, it was worth the entrance fee. Unfortunately, Xavi's not worth it. Mawani's not worth it. Solanke's not worth the entrance fee. And I think that's where a lot of Spurs fans are like, okay, I'm paying all this money, but what am I really getting for it? And this is where football has become for Tottenham Hotspur. I'm not saying for all clubs, because you look at someone like Aston Villa, they're playing great football at the moment. So they're more, I know they're champions. I think their Champions League tickets are just as expensive as ours, but their league tickets are completely different. So I think Spurs have to evaluate it, especially with ticket pricing for next season, to see where they really want to be at. Because I think Simon Jordan was saying, if we were doing well, would any of us be moaning about ticket pricing?
No, it's fair.
Question. Because since we moved in, we've been crap at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But if we say we had Pochettino and it was Pochettino's football in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium,
no, you wouldn't be. That'd be sell out every week.
Everyone, and that's the thing. You take that with hindsight and go, actually, would we be moaning?
I don't think you would be, because I hate to bring up that down the road, but the thing for them is this is the crazy thing. They're playing unattractive football, but because of what they're doing league-wise, they're selling out every week.
It's the optimism, isn't it? It's optimism of what's going to happen.
Hopefully it's delusion, but they believe they're going to win it, right? I hope it's delusion. I don't know, but I hope it's delusion. But the thing for us at the moment is that it sounds mad saying this. I don't want this to sound crazy. I'm not ungrateful for it, because that Europa League win.
I know exactly what you're going to say, because it's what I've been lining up to say for the last couple of minutes.
You say it, Luke. Go on.
No, it's mad in Tottenham's. I'm hoping this is the same thing you're going to say, but it's mad in Tottenham's history that the 2 biggest days that we had, probably we didn't want them as a club, because they just came too early. I stand about Frank, for instance, that I think Frank would have been the perfect manager if we lost the Europa League final. I think he would have been a perfect manager to come in and set. But I think he's put unrealistic expectations. 100%. When we got to the Champions League, everyone was going, this is us now. When in fact, that year, we were dreadful.
Yes.
Other than 3-4 games. Yeah. And then this year, there is so many holes in this squad. I mean, we've just named them. We've literally named half a team where we need to make changes, and that's not saying that all of the others are going to get to the level of the top 4. This is just saying that right now they're not a priority because we've got other places we need to improve. Right?
This is the problem. That Europa League is completely winning. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It has completely become like it's set an imbalance, right, in terms of what is. What do you want out of, what is success, right? Because for me, I mean, me and Marlon went through a lot of those 22 league defeats, if not all of them together, right? And like they were so painful, but then like that day we had to celebrate the trophy was absolutely amazing, right? And I look back now and think, if I have to go through that, I mean, will I go through that again? Yes, probably for the Champions League. But the thing where I'm at now is that, like, the Premier League now, I mean, don't get me wrong, I care about the league. But like, I really want to win something again. And like, it goes back to what I said earlier on the show, like that draw in the FA Cup to Villa. Like, again, this is probably a sense of problem with us fans as well. Like, I'm part of the problem. I'm saying I'm part of the problem because already that draw came out and I'm thinking, I just put fuck, Villa at home. Like, can't we get Crawley or Exeter or Port Vale? Why are we getting like another Prem club? But I feel like our draws recently in the FA Cup and League Cup have been very, very frustrating. I know that again, you've got to beat everyone anyway on the way to winning it, but like, I don't know. We need a good cup run. Like, we need something. Like, we can't be in a situation this season where we get to January, February, and like, we're just competing to finish in the top 7 or 8 of the league. Like, I feel like we need something this season. Like, the whole thing about this season was that we were looking to build a last season success, and you're spot on, Luke, what you said, that the Frank appointment came at a time where, let's be honest about it, there was frustration around the fact someone wanted to keep Ange for season 3. And I can understand that. Like, I can understand it. For as much as, for me, like I was saying last season, I couldn't believe what I was watching. I can understand some fans feeling there should have been a season 3. And there's still people believing it now. This is the crazy thing. If you polled Spurs fans right now, I'm not saying all Spurs fans, and I'm not saying most Spurs fans. I am saying some Spurs fans still today, because I see it every week, or after every show on Last Word on Spurs. It might be the Aussies. It might be the Aussies out there.
No, I don't think it is.
That would still want Ange back.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there is. I think there are generally people out there.
What was that about the press conferences before we came on here?
Yeah, it's just box office. I spoke to someone that doesn't like involved with Tottenham, is not ingrained in it, and actually looks at the Premier League as a whole, but doesn't support certain clubs. And he basically was saying that Spurs are not box office anymore. You've always had Kane, you've always had Son, your absolute box office. You've had superstars, and Ange was your box office last year. People tuned in to watch Ange. Right now, nobody other than Spurs is tuning in to watch Spurs because you don't have a superstar. You don't have a really charismatic manager that you want to watch every single press conference he does. And that's potentially a problem. You want to be entertaining. I mean, Carragher said it at the start of last year, everyone watches Spurs. Everyone wants to watch Spurs because it's an entertainment. We don't really have that at this moment in time, which I think is a problem. But
Frank either. Frank also is quite. I mean, I watch all his press conferences. I feel like I have to watch his press conferences, but I feel like a lot of Tottenham fans just wouldn't really watch. I mean, have you watched all of Frank's press conferences this season?
I've watched more than I would normally, just purely because of this.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure I don't listen to. There's so many times where I read something and I'm like, oh, that sounds terrible. Then you watch it and you go, that's not what he said, or he did say that, but there's a bit of context. So, but yeah, they're not the most. I don't look forward to them. Put it that way.
I don't watch them.
I don't either.
I didn't never watch it. And it's like, for me, what the manager says and what he does, I rather see what he does on a weekend to what he says in the press conference, because most of the time he's pandering to what the journalists are not asking the questions that most of us fans want to know. They're asking questions to sell their to sell their coverage or newspapers, depending on what they are, if it's TV or the media. So they're going to ask questions just to get us to watch. And most press conferences I don't watch. And Conte's I loved because he was he was box office. Mourinho's, you just had to turn up because you knew what you were getting.
Aura, Miles, haven't they? Yeah, they've got an aura about them, haven't they, those managers?
But Pochettino towards the end, with his riddles, I couldn't get on board with it. I just I hated Poch's press conferences. They would just you say one thing and mean another, and then you do something completely different on a weekend. So for me, I don't really pay attention to them. It's just me. I know a lot of people have to do it and have to watch it, especially Rick. But for me, I find them so boring.
I think they are read into a bit too much.
Yeah,
Definitely.
we need a spark loop. You not agree? Like, I feel like in these next few weeks, like we need something that is going to grab us. Whether it's going to be like a January signing or a player's going to really step up for us in these next few weeks. Hopefully, it is Javi Simmons. But I feel like at the moment, just the mood wise, it's like very like this. There's no real kind of. I feel like we need someone that's going to grab us and excite us, because normally in a season you get a moment. Let's suppose about it, we haven't got that moment yet. I hope we're going to get that moment, but it's just the people I speak to around me. I keep saying this. I always, and you, Luke, must be the same. We all must be the same. I speak to people around me. I feel there's very little excitement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think but I think that's what Frank was brought in for. He was brought in to calm the storm, to calm it, because it was so crazy. Like someone's mentioned it in here about kamikaze football. It was chaotic. It was crazy, but that's what he brings. That's what he wants. That's what, like Mourinho, for instance, he brings very, very boring football, but absolutely box office press conferences. Like certain managers bring certain things.
That's not what Frank said it was going to be.
No, but we do this every year. We do this with every manager. I mean, the first two things that Frank has come in and what Nuno came in, we're going to make you proud. We're going to play attacking football. But you've never really done that. So why would you then employ a manager that doesn't really do that in the first place? Surely it's like what we actually said about Ange going into Forest. Well, why would that make any sense? It makes no sense to get the best defensive team to go and get an attacking manager. It doesn't make any sense.
This is where I think Enoch have made their first, or not Vid. I think Vinay made his first mistake. He should never have employed Frank in the first place.
Do you think they've got to get out there, Miles? I have to ask you that because we don't get a chance to ask these kind of questions on Last One on Spurs. Do you think he's got to get out by the fact that it could be claimed that he was part of a Daniel Levy appointment, and therefore, like, for example,
that's what they will do. I don't think it was, but that's what they will do.
That's what they will do. But you can clearly see this is for me, this is Enoch, not Daniel. I think this was an Enoch appointment.
It was an Enoch-driven appointment.
Yeah, and you can clearly see that by the way they brought him in and what he had to say in the media and whatnot. And for me, I think they made a mistake because you guys all said he needed to win in the Europa League, change to a perspective of what we needed to do this season.
Because they told us that though. They told us that, Miles, not us, not the fans. They were the ones that told us it was going to change. Like, they were the ones that were saying they're building on this. And
then they went and employed a manager that can only play once a week. It made no sense. You can't do that. As soon as we won that Europa League, the goalpost changed, and they needed to change the perception of what manager had to come in, and that's where they messed up. They've got and brought in Frank, and this is why the fan base is all over the place. Because if Frank had one game a week, I don't think half of us would be moaning. We'd be sitting there going through it. But where we've had Champions League, we've had Europa League, we've got FA Cup coming up. And it's just not Europa League. We've had Champions League and FA Cup, League Cup, and we've had all these games penciled in. He just can't do it. He's never been able to do it. He's never proven that he can do it at any club. So why all of a sudden is he going to come to Spurs? And this is the problem why we signed Richarlison. And this is where Tottenham think, he's doing it at a crap club or a club that ain't doing well, but he'll come to us because we're a better club. And it doesn't work like that, because the one thing that Frank clearly said is, at Brentford, they had a better structure, which meant that, and you can clearly see what's going on with
100%.
Keith Andrews. It's not about the manager; it's actually about the structure of the club.
It's just a cog in a system. 100%. That's all it is. It's just a cog in a system.
And
Brighton,
and De Zerbi was the best cog they've had in that system. Okay, no, but Hertzler can come in and not cause that much disruption. Even though he's not as good as De Zerbi, but he can still. Brighton, because you don't know what Brighton are going to turn up. That's how Brighton were 2 years ago, 3 years. You just don't know which Brighton are going to turn up, but they'll go and win one against Man United away, and then they'll go lose to, say, someone like Wolves at home. This is what Brighton do, but their players will always be performing at some sort of level because that's the way and everyone has always said it's going to catch up with them, but yet we're still sitting here and Brighton are still being Brighton. So, but he's coming to Spurs, and then Spurs are like all over the place because there's never been a clear plan. And there's so many things still missing from inside the football club, like the scouting system and everything like that, because where Paratici's been not being able to work and things like that, a lot of things still haven't changed. Spurs think they can just do the scattergun approach to keep changing things, and it's going to work. And this is why Tottenham are in a mess. It's probably not all down to Frank, but maybe that's why Conte did work, because Conte is a mess.
Well, you see that Conte now, he's in his second season at Napoli, and he's already saying, I'm not sure if I've got the energy for this. I'm not sure if the players have got the energy for this. Luke, I know you're probably going to go to Forest, but I just think it's such an intriguing conversation. It's such a great debate. It's such a good conversation, right?
No, I'm happy to carry on if you guys are.
It's the crazy thing, right? Here we are. You know, we're unbeaten now in 3. We've had a couple of wins in that, right? And like, we're all talking as if he's lost 3 on the bounce. You know what I mean? It's crazy, right? It's actually crazy.
That's what Billy's saying here. Personally, I like the direction we're going in. We're beginning to show some nice attacking football, and Frankie's keeping it. And this is the problem: is that at the moment, I agree.
He's rotated the squad well in the last couple of weeks.
That's 2 home games, and he had no choice. Let's see.
And this is it. It's seeing it more regularly, right?
Yeah, because
it's seeing it more regularly.
Forest, and to be honest, I won't mind if he goes all defensive against Forest and he goes, because it's worked for him. But I know a lot of the fans are good looking at it going, no, you got to go out attacking. And when we lose 4-3, are you going to be happy?
Honestly,
we might win 4-3.
If we lose Sunday, hell will break out. He's just been unbeaten in his last 3 games. I mean, and that's what I mean about football in that moment. I think, you know, a lot of people are going to be very much on this guy's case, kind of game to game. Like, I think Marlon, you said it. Forgive me. The Chelsea and Arsenal game, he lost a lot of fans, and then he criticised the fans in the home game for booing Vicario, right? So when you've done that, it's going to take a lot to get fans back on side. And I said this about Pochettino, that he got so much credit in that first season, despite losing at home to Stoke, I think to West Brom, and the home form weren't great under Poch. And despite obviously the fact that the talking about got sacked against Aston Villa, you know, that season he beat Arsenal and beat Chelsea, and that was massive credit in the bank, absolutely massive credit in the bank. And I feel like Frank, personally, I think he's going to need to win a big game, certainly this season.
Yeah.
Or a couple of big games to give fans.
He's got to have a Frank moment, hasn't he? He's got to have a moment.
It won't be against Liverpool, unfortunately, because of the way Liverpool are in a mess. He can win it, but it's not going to be the Frank
that will be the thing. That will be the thing. Right? If we beat Liverpool, everyone will just go, but Liverpool are a mess.
It's going to be the North London derby in, is it January?
Is it February? I think
February. Yeah, it's between. No, isn't it between? Oh yeah, it's when the knockout stages of. That's going to be the game. As soon as if he can win that North London derby,
that's what worries me that week, Miles. You know, Jason said,
if he loses it, he's done. He's done.
The week that falls into, and again, this is the worrying thing that falls into, right? We've just say for example, we've got him backed him in January. We've bought the players in for him. We've then got that week where you've got a playoff in the Champions League. Who knows what that playoff could be, right? That could be a very difficult game. You just don't know, because there's some good teams actually that are in that part of the group of them that could fall into a playoff place. You've got that, and you've got Arsenal. And again, it sounds really like defeatist mentality. Say that's not a great week. And then also by then we've had FA Cup participation as well. Who knows where we are in terms of the FA Cup? Like,
it could be a mess.
I run our games up to that as well. So we've got City.
Yeah.
Then we're at home to City, away to United, then at home to Newcastle, then the qualifier, then we're at home to Arsenal.
You know what? In that sense, right? The only game we're all looking at going, we'll win that is probably City, and they could be on an amazing run. It doesn't matter. We're all looking at City. I'd rather lose to City and win the rest.
They're looking at the title run.
We should stay up.
That's what they're looking at the title run, going, well, we lose to Spurs, so we need to really get back. It's absolutely mad. Talking about losing fans, guys. We've got 19 likes on the stream. Come on, let's get some likes.
Come on, guys. Yeah?
We've lost some fans, I think. But no, I completely agree. I think that is going to be a very interesting. I do think that they will keep Frank. I don't think we are going to go on a spell where we lose game after game. So I think they will.
Unequivocally, then, just to confirm, you think unequivocally, regardless what happens this season, you think Frank's will definitely be here at the end of it and see us through into season 2.
Yeah, I think he will do. And going back to the point about whether he was Levy's guy, whatever. If he was Levy's guy, it's even more worrying than if it wasn't, and they just admit they got it wrong. And the reason I say that is, how incompetent can you be to allow a man who you're going to get rid of in 6 weeks to manage your whole recruitment process? And that's why, for me, that's a big worry.
That's
It's
why
even more of them if they just say, actually, Frank was wrong, we got it wrong, and we're going to go elsewhere. It's poor. But if they let Levy manage that ship until the day they went, right, you're out, that's
One of the things
incompetence
to
on
consider
every
is
side.
obviously Vinay oversaw that first few years of Arteta, right? Or if not the whole period of Arteta. So they allow them to finish eighth and go again. So you just wonder whether Vinay will have that patience or whether Vinay will be a little bit different being at Tottenham, where again this is what's intriguing of how, because they talk a lot about the fact they've been given a lot more freedom in their roles.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of how they are acting in and around the football club, Vinay, and what the Lewis family have said to the individuals there. What will be really intriguing is how much control they actually do have and how much they are empowering Vinay and the chief executives behind the scenes. Because I think, I mean, what you think, could you imagine like 3 years of where we are right now in terms of the form being up and down and fans tolerating that? Because at the moment, the stadium isn't full every week or every other week at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Like, how long can they have those attendances like that? I wonder. Could they go 2 or 3 years?
The only counter comment I'd come back to on that is if we change that manager every year, you'd have 3. Do you know what I mean? If the first season we turn around and go, right, do you know what, it wasn't working, wasn't what we wanted, Frank's gone, we get someone else in and we try a different solution.
What about if it's Poch though, Chris? What about if it's Poch?
See, that I think that wins over a lot of fans just by making that signing. They bring the fan base back because of that signing. But
yeah, until he loses his first 2 games.
He's got credit in the bank.
Yeah. I honestly agree. I really do think like to go through like another, what you want to call it, rebuild, reset, whatever you want to call it. I think Poch gets more credit in the bank than any other name out there because he's come in and done that job. Do you not think, Miles?
Really? No, because a lot's changed since he last left, and he still went. And a lot of fans still haven't forgiven him for Chelsea.
He didn't, but he didn't really do much there, did he? Though, really?
No. For me, I thought he done a really good job at Chelsea. But
what I mean by that, I don't think he'd done enough there to scar his Tottenham legacy.
I think a lot of people. So there's some people that like when I talk to them, they're like, "Nah, he went to Chelsea. I'm done." And this is what I'm saying. I think because we're now a bigger fan base, because when it was 30,000 people, there was less noise. But now that we're in a 60,000 seat stadium, and it's really, really funny because when we left White Hart Lane, and I remember working at Spurs, and the last North London derby, I remember speaking to Robbie from AFTV, and he said to me, we were talking about like the move to the stadium, and he said, "You lot ain't gonna know. It's gonna be totally on a different scale when you move to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium."
Yeah,
and he was like, what it was compared to, because obviously he saw the transition from Highbury, and he said, "There's going to be a lot more noise, and you won't know what's hit you." And I'm starting to see that now with our new stadium, where I'm going, do you know what? He was probably spot on with that, because yes, Poch could come back, but if he doesn't get the results, remember, we're paying a lot more money this time around. And if he starts off badly like he normally does at clubs, because he had a bad start at Chelsea, he's had a bad start at the US. And if he does exactly what Frank's done, you say he's got credit in the bank, but then a lot of people are going to go, do you know what? You remember the season when we moved into the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and he had that little spell up and down at the beginning. People go, "Oh, this was the reason why he left." And people always forget Poch in his first couple of seasons wasn't great. No matter.
I think a lot of people associate their recent greatest memories with him.
But it's like, what I think a lot of people will then have what happened with Gareth Bale. Oh my God, we're getting that Gareth Bale back and this, that, and the other. You saw him play and you went,
I do think the one thing about Poch and guarantee is that this is another thing about whether he can deliver it right, but you know that he's gonna want to play a certain way and a way in which a lot of fans will get behind.
But the problem you've got then is that you got to remember Poch's football only lasts 3-4 years with a squad.
But I don't think that's a problem.
But will Tottenham recycle it as much as what they're supposed to? And I don't think we will.
It's like what Chris was saying about, what if you change a manager every year, then that means changing the players. But that's the problem at this club. That's not how a football club should operate. What we should do is we should say, this is the idea of what we want Spurs to look like on a pitch. Yeah. And now we go and we buy all of the players that fit that, and we get the best manager available that fits that system, and we bring him in. And actually, if he don't work, we get someone else in, and we're not going, from an Ange system where we want free flowing attacking football, everyone running up, to let's now play defensive and be a bit more like that's why everyone keeps talking about rebuild. Every manager, every club, roughly it's about 18 months. So technically every club is always going for a rebuild, because every 18 months later what they do is they go, right, this is the style that we want. So let's say Poch is your man. We go and get Poch. Doesn't work. Okay, well, but we're still going to go down that route. That's why if you wanted the Ange sort of football, Iriola was the one that made the most sense for me. It was like he basically.
You're seeing it, aren't you?
No, I didn't want him. I'm just saying, if that was what if you're going down the route of this is the idea, this is the vision, and you go and appoint the best manager that suits that, not let's get a manager in that might adapt to be that. That's why I think is our big problem, because we constantly chop and change.
Yeah, if you go back to the Poch era quickly on that, could you imagine if we had got rid of Dele Alli, Dembele, Vertonghen, and Alderweireld in one window because we didn't realise that they were on the way down?
Yeah, but that's when again it comes into the right transfers, right?
Yeah, but then you're gonna have to then replace them all, because that's how Poch's teams are. And even Kane, he couldn't run as much as he could, but Kane's a world-class player, so he was able to adjust and adapt. And if you saw, and I'll always say this, Mourinho brought another side out of Kane that he literally spoke the truth when he said in the Amazon, I'm going to make you explode, because that's what he did. But the problem is, the Spurs needed to recycle at a certain time, but it wasn't just one player, it was 4 or 5, and they were core players. And I don't think, if I'm looking at the way Spurs have acted, I don't think there'd be a time that Spurs would be able to do that, because these were our best players at the time. Now, if Poch was here, it'd be Van der Ven, Romero, Bentancur. I'm just putting him in that bracket for now. That you'd be all getting rid of at the same time, and Spurs would then go and put younger players in. And you're hoping that what happened at Chelsea with Pochettino, he's then now got to bring them in, and there's going to be that season where you're going to be down here, and towards the end you're going to go up. Will Spurs fans accept that?
All I would say is I think people actually forget the amount of tactical progress that was made under Poch, certainly in the early periods, and also player-wise, how much he improved so many players. And the thing at the moment is, like, for me, this is the biggest thing that I'm judging Frank on. Am I seeing improvement on players game to game, week upon week? That's what, for me, I judge a successful manager on. I judge it the same with Conte, the same Mourinho. It's very early days for Frank. I'm not here sitting there saying I want Frank to leave. All I am saying that for me at the moment is I need to be convinced, Miles. I need to be convinced. And I'm not convinced as of yet. Look, I might not be convinced until the end of the season. It might take me longer to get there. But, like, what you got to ask yourself is, as a fan, I keep saying this, do you want to go through the build with the right person? And at the moment, I can totally understand why some fans are sitting there questioning, well, is Frank the right person to go through this build with? I don't keep going back to Pochettino. All I would say is that Pochettino worked very, very well with a lot of young players, and Tottenham have a lot of young players at the moment. But let's be honest about it. Pochettino's not going to leave in a World Cup year. The reality is that he's going to be available from next summer onwards. So maybe it's a debate for later in the season, depending on how Frank is doing well. Look, I want Thomas Frank to succeed. I really, really want Thomas Frank to succeed. But at the moment, I still feel there's a lot of question marks, definitely long-term, in terms of what we're seeing. We need to find a consistency in terms of the way we're playing. We need to see a thing about what this Spurs side is about. And I really hope bringing the Forest thing into play, I'm sure you'll want to do it, Luke, as well. I feel like we want to go to Forest and see a real dominant display. I don't want it to be like a Leeds. I mean, look, I like the fact we go to Leeds and we grit these games out and we win 2-1. But there needs to be some consistency about when we go away from home to get results. I appreciate some fans are just saying, I just want to go there and win. I appreciate that. But I feel like long-term, to build a side, you need to see at least some consistency in terms of the way we're playing, the patterns of play, and players feeling confident in what they've been asked to do. That's the thing. One thing I would just say is that I feel like in the last couple of games, players have been allowed a little bit more to express themselves.
Yeah. No, and when I say about playing the attacking football, I understand it. You're not going to go and play attacking football in certain places, or you're not going to play it the whole time. So you need to be able to show that grit, that determination, be able to sit in and defend. And people forget, you said about Poch. Poch's defensive record was absolutely sensational, particularly that last year at White Hart Lane. We had the best defence in Europe. So it's not necessarily just playing attacking football means that you're going to concede loads of goals. That doesn't actually have to happen. And also you have to have another side to you, right? That's absolutely fine as well. But I was saying it all last year that we need to get our transfers. We need to get the way that we deal with getting players in the door and players getting players out the door in a better manner. And if we don't get that right, then actually it doesn't matter what Frank really does, because eventually you're always going to drop in some aspect because you're bringing in the wrong players. And some of the links today about Basuma saying that Spurs want to extend Basuma's contract so that they don't lose out on a fee effectively is, if true, part of the reason why it's so problematic. And just a little bit more on that transfer window, we can only make free transfers in the Champions League squad. So this is another thing coming into it, that we could potentially be signing players in January and we can't play them in the Champions League because the squad was so mismanaged previously. So we can only make 3 changes. Expectation would be that Dragusin comes into that team because we don't have enough defenders. And someone mentioned earlier Van der Ven can play left back. That's brilliant, but we still don't have anyone to play left centre back then. So you just move in one problem to another place, because left centre back, whenever I've seen Danso, whenever I've seen Romero, they don't look as comfortable. So that just brings in another thing.
Davis could play there.
Ben Davis potentially could play there, to be fair. But again, if you're looking at playing in the Champions League, I think that's a problem position for you for sure. And I know that was a bit of tongue in cheek, probably about Archie Gray as well. And but if we don't get the transfers right, then this is the sort of stuff that Frank's going to be dealing with. And I think that is part of the problem that we've got. So yeah, that's my 2 pence on why I think Frank needs, if we come out of the transfer window and we've signed some good standard players, then I think that's a different conversation. But I think the transfer window, we say it every transfer window, we say it every game.
It's so players then. If you're going to sign 3, if we can only make 3 changes, technically
you can only make 3.
You technically have to sell 4 because you decided Dragusin into that conversation, which means that it's going to be an awkward position to be in because you've just added Tel. Solanke's now out of the squad as well. So
yeah, but you can go back on that. So they can go back and get Solanke back in the squad, and it doesn't count as a change. So after the qualifier rounds, when you go to the next round, you can then make 3 changes to that.
But that's going to be Solanke and Tel still have to make that change. Solanke still has to technically come into it. So that's 5 already. So you've got the 3 new signings that you need to put in, plus Solanke and Dragusin, because you need to add those in. So you then have to then sell probably 5 just who are in the Champions League squad now. Just
Basuma's not in it. He needs to go.
Yeah. So you can forget Basuma right now, but then there's also the additive of Kulu. So yes,
that's why I think there's only going to be 1 change, because I think Kulu will come in, and I think that Dragusin will come in as well, and then that leaves one summer signing that can come in the squad. I don't think 2 is going to come in, or 3. I think Dragusin and Kulusevski.
Tel will miss out again.
Yeah, I think Tel will miss out again.
Which
I think it, unless something miraculous happens, I think that's what will happen. As I say, from a defensive standpoint, a centre back has to come into that squad, I think.
Yeah, if we do need to sell 3 players, and you had to we had a say in it, who do you reckon would be the 3 players that we get rid of?
Well, I think Basuma's a non-event. I think he goes. I think if you can go on mute,
stop including Basuma, because we're talking about the Champions League squad here. It's got to be free.
Well, I think if it was me in charge, I would drop Kinski. I would drop Kinski personally. I think you've got Austin there, and then you've also got people talk about if you get an injury. Well, if you get an injury that's over 60 days, you can bring another goalkeeper in anyway. So I would go and take a risk and not go with a goalkeeper. I'd take Kinski out, and I would bring in Dragusin would be my swap there, and then it just depends on what else you've got going forward. Like, because someone might just need a winger and come in for Johnson or something like that, and all of a sudden that frees that up.
I was going to say, does anyone see a surprise sale in January like a Johnson? Because I mean, he's barely been playing. Chris, you actually I think mentioned this. Did you mention Solanke there? Or because I don't have time to Solanke, for example, like. what do we think about Solanke at the moment? I mean, I know he might not even be fully fit by the time the January window rolls around, but we're also going to need to generate money from somewhere, you feel, as well.
100%. You've got, when you look at the
I feel
wingers,
a lot of loan moves are coming. I don't think we're going to be selling. I think in January, if we're going to be getting rid of players, I feel like we'll probably sell one or two. But I
World
think
Cup year.
yeah, and I think the majority of transfers, not just for Tottenham, but I think over the
Mm.
board, won't be money being
Yeah.
transferred. I think it'll be a lot of loan moves with the options or mandatory or whatever to buy
And
them. But
Johnson probably needs to play because of Wales, because they still need to qualify, don't they?
It's a good
Yeah.
point. He's not playing, is he? This is the thing, is Johnson's barely featuring. He's barely getting games.
Yeah, and but that's another reason why I think it's really strange, and that's why I can't see the sort of vision at this moment in time, is that Xavi goes from 4 games not playing, then he's being told in press conferences that he's been unbelievable in training.
Yeah, he's been.
Then he
great.
comes in and starts, like, okay. Then you've got Odobert. It was Johnson that didn't get on the pitch. Then all of a sudden started, and I'm like, hang on a minute. Like, he looked like he was your 4th choice left winger because you played Richie there, you played Odobert there, you played Tell there, and then all of a sudden he starts, and I'm like, so has he jumped from 4th to 5th? Like,
even Odobert recently, Luke. Odobert's another one recently. He was playing a few games. He was dropped.
Yeah.
No explanation as to why. Been told he's training really well. That's what I mean. I mean, I don't think half of these players. I don't think half of these players are what Frank really wants. And it also was very telling, if you guys remember. I think it was in the middle of the January transfer window. Sorry, the summer transfer window, when Frank was sitting there saying that it's going to take time for the Spurs hierarchy or the structure there to understand what he wants. Because obviously at Brentford, they had the same kind of alignment for a good 4 or 5 years in terms of what he wants player profile wise. And that was just after, I think, we lost out on Eze. And Ben on, obviously, we lost out on Gibbs White in the earlier part of the window. So, you know, realistically, when we criticise Frank for Xavi Simons, I mean, let's be honest about it. Did Frank really want Xavi Simons?
I don't think the club did. Not in terms of don't want him.
You're right, but he wasn't on the initial. He wasn't put on their initial list.
No, I don't think he
The whole
was.
Chelsea thing, wasn't it? That was the only reason.
Gibbs White was
It
clearly.
was Eze, wasn't it? We lost out on Eze.
Clearly one you
Yeah.
could still. Gibbs
We
White
were
was a
crying.
player. Gibbs White was a massive. This is why it comes round to Forest this weekend. Gibbs White was clearly a player that Frank really, really wanted. I think to miss out on him was a big blow, a hammer blow, really. He knew Madison really
still
well.
think it was huge. Think it was huge now. I think he was actually going to play as an 8. I think him and Paulinho were going to be the midfield against certain opposition. And I think that would have been your ball progression. I think that's why he went for Paulinho, thinking, I don't need a ball progression player when I've got Morgan Gibbs White.
And then obviously Eze was just to back up. He was like, all right, I can cope with that. But didn't realise that Arsenal were in the picture. And then Xavi, the whole Chelsea situation, because it was down to their squad, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Garnacho and all that, wasn't it?
The fans need a lift. Like, just again, I keep going back to this. The fans that I speak to, everyone needs, as you say, Luke, a Frank moment or something that's going to spark this season into life. Really, really do. And then this is what I mean about these whole rumours coming out now about the window. Let's really, truly see. I mean, we need something. We need something really exciting.
I think that nothing's really shocked the Spurs fan base this season in terms of, like, it's not like one player's gone and become unbelievable overnight and by it. So for me, we still need that left winger, as you discussed. We still need the left winger. We still need the ball playing central mid. We probably still need a striker, albeit that means Mawani, Richarlison, one of them kind of has to go. But
Richarlison's scoring goals, mate. He's a stronger.
I'm just going to skip past that. I like him, and I actually said last year I think Frank will get a tune out of him, but he's not the long-term solution.
Yeah, that's what I was put there. And you should put the left back as well as a priority position.
And that's what I'm saying. But the left back's slightly different because, well, no, I suppose in a way everyone said in the summer that we needed a fullback as well. So in terms of what we need in the summer and what we need now, nothing's changed. Like nothing has changed. So therefore, that we should already have a head up to say we already know where we're going with this. Like there'll be other teams where a player's come out of the blue and you've gone, Jesus, he's miles better than we thought he was going to be. So we don't need that left winger now or whatever. Whereas we still know exactly what we need because we knew it 6 months ago. So they should, in January, one of the first week or so, we should be getting deals over the line, or a deal over the line to say this is an issue. We know where it is. We've targeted it. We've got it over the line and done. And I think if we're sitting here in the middle of Jan, no signings, no changes, then I think it just proves where the club want to be. Because this is like, we all sit here and argue and say like where this, that, and the other. But if the club are happy just fighting for top 6, we ain't going to be a top 4 team unless we hit a load of luck. It's all dependent on where this club wants to go. So I think it will be interesting, but we will go on to Forest now because we are way over time, an hour and 40 minutes. We're going to move on to Forest.
That's what happens when you get Ricky on.
Morgan Gibbs White. We was all into it. We all played that. You kept jabbing with your Richarlisons and your Archie Greys. Chris, Forest up next. What are your thoughts on Forest? Obviously Daesh is back there. They were struggling towards the start of the season. They're on a bit of a decent run still. Probably, I think they're still quite low in the table. But what are your thoughts on Forest and Spurs in that game? What are your hopes?
Tough game, but I feel like our away form seems to be where we are strongest at the minute. And my prediction for the game is probably going to be a 2-1 Spurs win.
Jesus, he's gone in early. 2-1. That's it. Gone predictions early as well. Right, Marlon. He's gone 2-1. What are your thoughts on Forest? Is Archie Gray going to be the star man?
No, probably not. But because I'm missing the game anyway, so this will be the first game I ain't watched in like 4 years. But I got a feeling it's going to be a draw. Probably 0-0. It's going to be a boring one.
Do you think that's it? Oh, great. Look forward to that one then.
I'm hoping it's a 0-0. No.
They are 17th.
They
are 17th.
Yeah, but again, 17th is because they had Ange for 8 games. Come on.
Marlon's jabbing.
No, come on. We got to be serious in all this. Like I said, when you look at Forest, the way they've been playing under Daesh, it has been turning, and they. I think it was. I can't remember if it was Gibbs White. One of the players had an interview, and they said recently it's starting to feel like how it did last season under Nuno, and you can see that the players are starting to believe, and that's why I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to sit there and say that we're going to go there and be wonderful Tottenham, because I don't know if it's all changed, but I'm predicting a draw because I just think both teams are kind of on form where they're hit and miss, and knowing our luck, Gibbs White will probably
can you imagine
put in a masterclass, and but yeah, Richarlison will probably score, or Johnson will probably come on and score. So to be honest, I'm probably going for a 1-0.
There you go. A mesmeric, a brilliant attacking impetus display of football. 1-0 board.
Mate, it could be 18 shots each, and they both can't score because they're both crap up front.
We haven't had 18 shots until this season. In the game, have we 18 shots?
We got 17 in the last two. Marlon's got 18. When you say on goal, do you mean on target, or just mean on goal?
On goal.
We've hit the corner flag 17 times and scored one.
I'll tell you what, we got to put it on Matt Sells because he's had such a crap season. He's having an awful season.
He has,
what he had last year.
Yeah.
And I think, but the problem is, I know we won't do it. We will just be, again, we'll put in shots when we're more likely to score, and it just depends on if the players can put it in the back of the net. It's so unfortunate we're not seeing the best of Mawani, because for me, he would be loving it right now. He'd be scoring goals for us. If we could get Mawani that was Juventus last year, oh my God. It's so unfortunate.
But part of that will be to get Xavi in the team more, right? I mean, that goal, the penalty that they got when he chested it down for Xavi, I know it was only a 2-second interaction, but he read it straight away. And actually, I thought that he tried to bring it down for himself. And if you look at the replay, he does check to see where Xavi is. And I think he brought it down for him. So I'm liking that. I'm hoping that becomes
look at the goal against Paris Saint-Germain, the one where he heads it back across to Richarlison. This is how clever he is. Yeah. And I think we are not seeing the best of him. We can see there's something there, but for some reason, we're not seeing the best of Mawani. And even against Paris Saint-Germain, he took his goals well, but there's something just not clicking with him as well. And I got a strange feeling when it clicks with him, it's going to click with Frank. And that's when we're going to see, because Mawani, we have to remember he's a 90 million euro striker that went from Frankfurt to PSG. So this is no mug here. We just need to get the best out of him. I don't know how we're going to do it. If we can get it, whether he's saving himself, I don't know. But if Frank can get the best out of Mawani, and I think that's why Frank's playing him, because you can clearly see that this guy has some talent, but he's just
100%.
He's just not producing it like how we'd expect him to. I feel like he's holding himself back, if that makes sense. And
I also think having that face mask on, I do think it disrupts you a little bit. I know
he
I'm
doesn't
not
make
make excuses. I think that's a bit.
Yeah, but I think playing him on the left against Brentford, I thought he had one of his better games. But I think the whole team played well that day. But as you said, against Slavia Prague, the way he brought that down, that's not the first time we've seen that, because the
touch for Odegaard's goal, that touch for Odegaard's goal was ridiculous when it went about 40, 50 yards in the air.
Yeah, so the other Champions League, he seems to be producing it more in Europe, but we just need him to produce it in the Premier League, because he could be something. But whether we'll see it or not, who knows?
So we just give all that spiel about Mawani being unbelievable. Marlon's gone 1-0 with Richarlison to score. Good.
Hey, when it happens, come back to me.
Ricky, what are your thoughts on Forest? And we'll go with a score prediction and try to make it sound a little bit more entertaining than Marlon.
You're trying to leave us on a high. And I'm trying to brace myself now to kind of get myself ready for last for the Spurs on Sunday now on the back of these predictions. Up until what Marlon was saying, I hate to agree. I do think it's going to be a very tough game. They've had a good result in Europe. There will be a feel-good factor. For some reason, Tottenham have become one of those teams that seem to get themselves embroiled in rivalries for no reason. I mean, we end up having these kind of almost hateful derbies for really no fault of our own. And this is what this Forest one has become now. I mean, there's quite a lot of spite now between the two clubs, really. Through no fault of our own, we just bid for a player. We thought we hit the release clause, which turned out we didn't, which is just typical Tottenham, really, how they managed to F that up. I've got to be honest, I think it will be a draw. I think it will be a draw. I want to sit here and say we're going to go and smash them 3 or 4-0. You know,
Don't say that. Just say that, please.
Okay. We're going to smash them 3 or 4-0.
Excellent.
But, yeah. Let's see. It's an interesting period, Luke. I mean, I think for the first time next week, we've got a full week in between for Liverpool. Yeah. That's massive for Frank. That's absolutely massive for him. Whether that sees any players come back is another question, but I think it's a big month for Tottenham, isn't it, really? We want to see these good performances continue and see a theme to the way we're playing. So hopefully that can continue against Forest. Screw it. Let's go for a 3-1 Tottenham win.
Look at that. He only needs to put his arm just a little bit. I agree.
Forest have only lost 3 games on the dice.
Don't worry about it. It's about to be 4.
Bournemouth away, Brighton at home, and Everton away.
They've gone back. They've reverted back to type that made them solid last year, haven't they? So it's definitely, and that's why going back to
Chelsea, wasn't it? Because I can't remember when he got. I think he got sacked after that, weren't he?
After the Chelsea game.
Yeah. He's Dyche has lost 3 games since he's gone there.
I mean, to be fair, they forgive me. They conceded late to Man United, didn't they? Two late to Man United.
Yeah. Battered Leeds at home, battered Liverpool. Their Europa League games have been quite significant. They beat Wolves away. So this, I think Everton was the one result where you looked at them and went, "Whoa,
what happened there?"
What happened there? But
normally, yeah.
So it'd be interesting.
Just pick up that comment there for that guy. I want Dyche if he scores Frank. I mean, God, that.
Imagine that as a fan base. Dyche is in, Frank's out. But I actually said this about Dyche, and that Dyche obviously done similar to what Frank was doing in terms of his Burnley team. It was unbelievably. They were phenomenal to keep him up, their net spend and all of that. But that doesn't mean Dyche goes and gets a top 4 job or a top 6 job.
He's a Forest man, isn't he, Luke? He played. I mean,
we've
played there. Again, he was in his early part of his career. He's brought off-the-field staff back that are Forest through and through. So it's been for them. It's a bit of a win-win really in terms of that appointment. They were never going to go down under him, were they? Just they might take a bit longer in their journey to kind of get to where they want to go. But they know with Dyche, they've got a safe pair of hands there.
Yep, 100%. I think that got rid of any doubts of them being relegated. So they are 17th, 15 points from 15 games. If Spurs win, we could potentially be as high as 5th in the at the end of the week. I think we're at the end, aren't we? So, but just going on to what Marlon was saying about Xavi not playing, that's why I think Xavi needs to play, because you've obviously got him, and then he's got a week off. So I know he's just played a few games, but that for me is a sign. I think if we go there and Xavi doesn't start, that's a sign of intent for me, where we're quite happy not to win the game. We're quite happy with a draw here. And that's why I think Xavi should be playing. If we had a midweek game, I completely understand that he'd have to manage those minutes. But yeah, for me, he should definitely be going there. If we play a stink fest and drop point, do we still trust Frank? Well, we've just been discussing that. And I feel like this is going to be a conversation that we have probably for another 6 months. So yes.
Until he gets sacked, somebody joking.
Yeah, or until he's got a new contract. Either way, we're still going to be doing the same thing. So,
what are we going to get a new contract? He's only been here 12 months. Could you imagine?
But it's going to happen either way. The same with Poch. Someone put in the chat, Poch had the best Spurs team that I've ever seen and didn't win anything. And then there's going to be other managers, other people that say Poch built the team that was the best. And I'm going to go 2-1. I'm going to go with Moani to get 1. And I feel like there's going to be a sneaky goal from someone we don't expect, like I don't know, maybe Odegaard or someone like that. So yeah, I think Marnie would turn up Sunday, so I'm going 0-0. Love that. Tell, yeah, I like Tell. I've got a lot of faith in Tell, but I'm not going to use that right now because he's not performing at this moment in time. But the Kip Spurs Russ.
How low is the bar? How low is the bar right now?
I love that. Yeah. That's what I mean. He's literally came on and kicked the ball to goal twice, and we're going, yeah, no, it's really good. It's really good. But Archie Gray, remember, generational talent who's changed Spurs. Marlon, no, you're not in agreement.
If you don't think that Gray is the man to take us forward, you can have the Tottenham you want.
You've got the Tottenham you want. Chris, tell the people where they can find you, because you've started making appearances on other channels now, haven't you? You're not just a co-host anymore.
No, I don't make appearances on other channels. I get phone calls to say, can you come on here with me? Because we need to back up. And it was obviously after the North London derby, I agreed to it. And then we get absolutely slapped. And I've got to sit there for 2 hours talking about how poor we were and how good they were. Just on here with you every Thursday. And then now and again on Twitter when I can be bothered to look at it and look at some stuff and not feel just when Tottenham don't get on my nerves, really. Which at the minute, it's always up and down.
Are you saying you're Frank out? Oh my God, I can't believe you just said that.
No.
Marlon, big shout out. Massive thank you for coming on. As I said in my YouTube video, first time I ever appeared on YouTube was at Spurs Kings.
Sorry, people, if you don't like him.
Yeah. Backing my guy Ange, and walked away with a European trophy. But anyway, let's enough of that about me. Marlon, where can they find you?
If I'm not with Ricky on Last Word on Spurs, I do have my own channel.
Look at the press as he said that.
Spurs Kings TV. I really need to change it up next year because we've only got like 2 shows and I need to start doing something else. But yeah, come over. We always produce. It's not about the quantity; it's about the quality, and that's what we're about.
We've got neither on this show, but we're here not very often, and we're not very good. But other than that, Ricky, I'm sure everybody already knows you. But what have you got coming up next?
Well, we've really sold the Forest game, haven't we? Now, I mean, God, everyone's going to be tuning in their thousands to come for Forest. No, listen, it's been a pleasure being on it, Luke. It's nice to be on the other end of the mic. You know, you probably see I'm a lot more relaxed when I'm on other. Well, I don't do a lot of other people's channels, as you know, so it's a pleasure coming on with you guys and having a bit of time away from Last Word on Spurs. I just feel like always when you're in game mode, it's quite intense as to what's going on with Spurs, and you're always I'm looking at Marlon's face half the time to find out if there's a drama that I'm unaware of a lot of the time, which you're now becoming, Luke, aware of as well. But Last Word on Spurs, you'll find us. Thanks so much, everyone, for always the nice comments and support. And it's going to be an interesting period for sure. A lot of games coming over the Christmas period. And yes, hopefully, fingers crossed, we get on a winning run, find some momentum, and there's a lot more smiles in the fan base. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, that hopefully that'll be the case. Guys, massive thank you to everyone. Cheers for. I completely agree. Cheers for don't speak too soon, Tottenham. I really appreciate all the support. Yeah. My favourite comment of the day, I think this is absolutely brilliant. We just whacked lyrical about Moani for 10 minutes. I think Moani will turn up Sunday, so I'm going 0-0. Superb from you. I love that, mate. Brilliant. Again, thanks. Yeah, comment of the day. Thanks a lot for the support. Guys, we are on Spotify now as well. So after the show, probably tomorrow morning, it will be uploaded and ready to go on there. If you don't want to see this, you probably don't want to hear this, but we're here and we're doing it anyway. So massive thank you to all of the guests. Thanks for everyone tuning in. Much appreciated. Last thing, as always, come on, you Spurs. See you.